With regard to I-9s, I'm just going to take you down a quick stroll down memory lane, and again, it's been 30 years, so we're at the 30-year anniversary of the I-9 form. What does the law say? Back in 1986, when the Immigration Reform and Control Act was passed, the law says that it's illegal to knowingly hire or retain unauthorized workers. You, HR, shall you accept the job, which you did, become the watchdogs to ensure that individuals are not unauthorized to work. How do you do that? You have to fill out the I-9 forms. How do you fill out the I-9 forms? You fill out section 1, you then fill out, and then what you do is after you're done with, the employee fills out section 1, has to be within 3 days of the date of hire. Then the employee fills out section 2, okay, they show you the documents, you fill out section 2, and then you sign to say that you've seen the original document. So it's pretty easy. The form has transformed over the years. Obviously, when the Immigration Reform and Control Act was put into place in 1986, the government didn't just set it and forget it. The government goes back and they study the implementation of the statute and what was the effect of the implementation. Well, the first thing that happened was that employers didn't know what to do and they got scared. And employers said, show me a green card. That's all I want to see, just show me a green card. Well, what is that? That's document abuse. Okay? The second thing that happened was that the foreign nationals went down on the street and bought green cards. So they were showing the employers fake green cards. So what happened was there was an economy in false documents that was created. So this is back in the late 80s. So the government put a fix in place in the late 80s. The first thing they did was they put into place a statute which prevented this discrimination, and they implemented the OSC, which is again the IER. Okay, so that was a fix that was made back in 1990. And they also put a document fraud provision into place. And the document fraud provision says that it's illegal to knowingly make, alter, or accept fraudulent documents. And that's your responsibility as well as the individuals who are showing you the documents. Okay? So what is your responsibility? Your responsibility as HR managers is to take a look at the documents and to make a couple of determinations. Number one is that the documents are genuine on their face, and that's up to you to decide whether they're genuine on their face, and to see whether they refer or relate to the individual who's showing those documents, okay? Are they genuine on their face? Well, that's a reasonable person standard. And do you want to alter that reasonable person standard? Oftentimes HR managers call me up and they say, listen, you know, I've heard about this special document that's put out by the Burlington Forensic Laboratory up in Vermont, and I want to read that document and I want to see what is a fake document. And I say, you know something, you don't want to do that, because if you become an expert, what you've done is you've raised the reasonability standard. So just be the reasonable person. If you see those documents and they look genuine on their face and they refer or relate to the individual showing them, then that's all you need to do. Why are you making yourself more than the reasonable person? So no, you don't necessarily have to raise that bar. Nothing in the law says you have to do that. Okay, and then you have that biometric piece of it, is that it doesn't refer or relate to the individual showing it. Well, if you look at the driver's license and it says that someone who's standing in front of you is supposed to be, let's say, blonde hair and 165 pounds, and it's not someone who matches that biometric description, well then you have an issue. And then of course, if you have an issue with the document, that opens the door to you being able to ask for more. I think the most important thing for everyone to know is that we're looking at, on March 23rd, we're looking at potentially a new funding bill for the government, and part of that funding bill has to do with the government asking for another $3 billion to increase enforcement. Where does that $3 billion end up, you think? I think it's going to end up in an increase of, obviously they're talking about the wall, which, I think you have to look through what the wall actually is. A lot of people are saying, well, it's a wall and it signifies, that we're going to be, everything is going to be within the U.S. and so on. But the wall also represents another thing. I always try to look for the silver lining. The wall's going to represent, obviously, government contracts, tremendous government contracts. What he did was he passed the Bono Amendment in 1996. What he did was he gave the ability to employers to be able to correct certain types of violations on their I-9s within 10 business days. Okay, so if you are notified of a potential issue on your I-9, you can correct them within 10 business days. And actually, the way that shakes out is when you have an inspection, okay, what happens is ICE will give you a notification about what are called suspect documents. Okay, and then what you do is you have the ability, if you can, to cure potential violations using the Bono amendment. You have 10 business days to do that. So that was a really helpful thing that came out in 1996. The other thing that happened in 1996, which was also very helpful, that you should know about, is that the intent definition changed so that you had to prove discriminatory intent. So you didn't have to prove that it wasn't enough to show a pattern of discrimination. You had to actually prove discriminatory intent. So that was very helpful to employers, and that's where we are sort of today.